reductive materialist. We have illusions, then we have the real productive life, and so on and so on. Or, to put it in these simplistic terms, we have real production, material process, and then we have institutional state superstructure, ideological superstructure, and so on and so on. But with commodity fetishism, he discovered something much more weird. He discovered something which is clearly, in some formal sense, an ideological formation, perverted spiritualism and so on, but which is nonetheless not part of superstructure. It's, as it were, an ideology which is part of the, not only part of the economic infrastructure, but its very core. You know, it's this, Marx has a wonderful term where he says it's objectively necessary illusion. It's not simply a subjective illusion where, when you think deeply, you get rid of it. It's an illusion which is embodied in social relations themselves, so that even if you don't believe in it subjectively, you still practice it. Which is why Marx also says something else crucial, that the mystery of this fundamental level of ideology, like commodity fetishism, is that it strangely persists even after you denounce it. Like, you may grasp the illusion, how it works as illusion, it still persists. And I think Marx was here onto something very deep, which psychoanalysis itself, I claim, became conscious only with Lacan and so on. Namely, the mystery of the mask. This is my old example. I'm sorry some of you know it, but I did a cruel experiment. I didn't go to the end, but I felt bad already then with my son. I approached him with the mask on, and he was a little bit afraid. Okay, then I pulled, okay, if you dare, try, if you don't believe me, the same experiment if you have it with your small child. Then I pulled the mask off and told him, look, it's your stupid daddy here. That's the only thing behind the mask. Yeah, he laughed and so on. Then I put the mask on again, and he was in the same way afraid. You know, he knew it's only me behind, but in a way he got it correctly. A mask is never simply a mask. There is, in a way, more truth in a mask than what is behind the mask. Because, and this is, I think, how we should read that Marx's category when he says that individual capitalists are like Roland Traeger, the carriers of social roles. It means, yeah, of course, we can always play the game of, but I'm not just, I put it this way. This precisely because a mask matters more than what is behind the mask. This humanist idea of we shouldn't be reduced to our social roles. There is, and I hate the cheat, there is so much more depth in me. I'm not simply a capitalist. I love flowers, I love small boys, whatever you want, if you are a priest and so on, no? Like, this idea of, in me there is a wealth of personality, I cannot be reduced to a mask. This is ideology. And I will give you a proof. I'm not anti-Semitic. I think we should be very careful here. I think that in spite of, and here I am actively participating in Boycott Israel, but in spite of all that, I absolutely reject the idea that the fact that what the state of Israel is doing on the West Bank is ethically, politically, and so on unacceptable, that because of this we should show even a minimum of tolerance for anti-Semitism, in the sense of what can we help? They are so screwed up, the Palestinians, we have to give them a kind of a bonus, No, but nonetheless, I want to say another thing. Did you notice how in the last years there were a couple of Israeli films, Lebanon and exemplarily, Lebanon and Waltzing with Bashir, yeah. They are pure ideology. You know why? Because the whole point is we are not monsters, we Israeli soldiers. We suffer. We are human like you. We shit, we urinate out of panic in the tank. You know, all this stuff of we are ordinary guys. We have fear like you. You cannot reduce us to machines and so on and so on. You know, this Steven Spielberg style, which is why I hate Saving Private Ryan, you know, this idea of this abstract pacifism. You know, where you say, oh, war is horrible, nonsensical killing, blah, blah, blah. I think that this is an ideology precisely because you end up in some kind of abstract humanism. Yeah, we are all human, and like in Lebanon, no? Okay, we sympathize with the guy's plight, we know war is horrible, blah, blah. But then the question, but what the fuck were they doing in Lebanon? Israeli army disappears, you know. We are in this, which is why, again, they are a good example, I claim, of how right was Brecht when he, as a provocation, liked in his place precisely in a vulgar anti-psychological way. One of his strategies was to reduce figures to abstract embodiments of their social role, to masks, you know, the typical Brecht procedure, especially in his so-called Lehrstücke, learning place from the, well, I don't know, I live that, you know, how the typical, let's take an example, like a guy comes on stage and says, hi, I am a journalist. I am corrupted by the bourgeoisie to dupe ordinary people. Now I will approach a worker and try to feed him all the bullshit about freedom and so on and so on. You know, this kind of stupid, naive, impossible position of you directly announce a lie. I think that this is not just a simplification. There is a truth in it. The truth is that in your personal experience, all your psychological depth, traumas, and so on are not your truth. To give you, what do I mean by this vulgar example? I'm absolutely sure that even with Hitler, or at least with ordinary soldier, if you were to ask them, how can you be doing this? They would have tell you, I know my heart was breaking when a Jewish child before I stepped in was crying, you know. But duty is duty, what can we do? But I'm not simply like that. I have sentiments and so on and so on. Well, my answer is fuck your sentiments. Your truth is what you were doing out there. Sincere as they are, your sentiments are the true lie. This is the true mask which enables you to cover up, as it were, or to screen out the reality of what you are doing. And I think this is, again, a quite deep message, anti-psychological, of psychoanalysis at the same time of Marxism and of Hegel. Hegel was fully aware of it. This, if you permit me, this ironical twist, anti-Hector Studio, anti-Marlon Brando procedure. You know, this horror of United States where they think that through acting is, you know, you identify, then you act out, or your personal traumas and so on and so on. I find this obscene and so on. No, so okay, let me go here nonetheless on a little bit more. So again, what the lesson of Hegel and the lesson of Hegel, with which Marx was able to catch up, only I claim, with his return to the critique of political economy from mid-50s onwards. And it's a very nice move by Marx. You know, the 48 revolution ended up badly, and then Marx, instead of, like many of us did after 68, nostalgically remembering, so beautiful, 68, we were on the barricades, and then you meet with friends in a pub once a week, you know, what a wonderful time we had, and then your cell phone rings, oh sorry, my boss is calling me, I must run back to the bank, and so on, you know. Marx did serious work. He saw how his theoretical foundation, this early Marx, is not strong enough. He started to read Hegel and Critique of Political Economy and did some serious job. In what sense? I'm sorry if you know this story. It's in the big fat book, which ironically is called Less Than Nothing, where it certainly doesn't weight less than nothing. No, I got you there. I got you there, you know. But what I want to say is that, sorry if I repeat this story, but it makes perfectly the point of this structural necessity of illusion. That illusion is not something which happens as just kind of a shadow, you know, things really happen here in economy, and then there are just out there illusions, passive reflections, but that illusion constitutes reality, not in some subjective idealist sense, no, that our reality are just illusions, dreams, but in the sense that if you take away the illusion, ideological illusion, reality disintegrates. I'm sorry if you know it, but since it's a dirty story, I like it so much that I cannot refrain from telling it to you. I'm repeating it all the time. When I was young, which means 30, 40 years ago, a German weekly journal, I think it was Stern, during summer holidays, published a wonderful caricature. 5 men, their photos are asked in this caricature, not a real interview, what would you like to be doing during summer? And they give the usual snobbish cultural bullshit answers. No one says, oh, finally I will have time to read a good book. Another guy says, I want to visit some foreign countries. Third one says, I want to withdraw into nature, experience the peace of a forest. Okay. Then, of course, with each guy, you have this, like in comics, you know, the balloon cloud, where, of course, you see what they really want to do in summer. Of course, a naked woman in all of them. I think this joke is false, theoretically false, that the reality is almost the opposite one. That is to say, at least if I'm with a couple of men and we are, you know, this kind of disgusting, obscene, realistic, male chauvinist, male bonding or whatever, then probably if we were to talk, you know, after a couple of beers, which I don't drink, like, okay, what we will do in summer, probably each of us, on the contrary, would openly say, let's just screw, get late, get a good fuck with us. You know what I mean? But then, in our cloud, would have been something like, you know, the particular fantasy how to do it. Maybe one guy has the idea of, I like to fuck in the forest. Another guy, I like to fuck on some Thai beach or whatever. There. And maybe I, as a pervert, you know, would like, which is a fantasy of a friend of mine, and in a way I like it. His idea was to penetrate, the woman is kneeling on her knees, leaning forward and reading a book. And you penetrate her from behind, and my friend told me what fascinates him is precisely that the woman should pretend indifference. Something is out there, I don't care. I'm reading a book, you do your job back there, you know. No, but you got my point. This is ideology at its purest. And this is the lesson of Freud. The lesson of Freud is not vulgar pansexualism. It's not whatever we are doing, we are always thinking about that. No. Freud's problem is, but what we are thinking about when we are doing that. Like that, this is what Lacan means with there is no sexual relationship. Even in the most passionate love, it's never this complete coincidence or identity where I have what I want, a woman, a man, or so that I will not be accused of speciesism, a dog, a cat, a goat, whatever you want, and I'm just here with my partner and I do it. You always need a dream, a fantasy. You are never alone. A certain fantasy scenario has to be here. And again, this was clear to Marx. This is why also he never called commodity fetishism an ideology, because he felt it very well that if we understand ideology the way he still did it, in this early Marx sense of up there, of an superstructure, then this is too strong. Commodity fetishism is not something up there as a a reflection effect of production process. It's something which literally constitutes